Hello, and welcome to today's panel discussion, which is part of the Fashion Futurum Forum. I'm Mahari Seward. I'm the staff writer at ID Magazine in London, and I'm also the moderator of today's conversation, in which we'll be discussing the theme, the identities of world cultures through the eyes of the designers of the future. So before we begin, I'd just like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's tuned into this conversation, wherever you are in the world, and also introduce you to our esteemed panelists who will be joining me to discuss this pertinent topic. So joining us from Dakar, Senegal, is Miss Adama Paris. She's a creative entrepreneur and a designer. We have Ali Karisma joining us from Jakarta, Indonesia, who is the national chairman of the Indonesian Fashion Council and director of the Muslim Fashion Festival Indonesia. Joining us from Lagos, Nigeria, is the creative director and founder of Cute Saint, Femi Ajose. From Seoul, South Korea, we have Won John, the founder of Painters, and also a design professor at Le Rêve School in Seoul. And joining us from Moscow, Russia, is Igor Andreev, the founder of Vereja. And last but not least, joining us from London, England, is Linus Leonardson, who is the founder of his eponymous label, Linus Leonardson. So first of all, thank you so much all for taking the time to join me today. Just as a little introduction as to what the kind of general theme of our discussion will be, we'll be discussing how today's innovative, independent designers can influence and shape their local urban cultures, which is an especially important topic, today in an environment in which our urban landscapes are changing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll also be talking about how these the respective urban cultures that these designers inhabit inform their practices too. So to start, I guess, let's start by kind of checking in on how you've all been dealing with and navigating this extremely surreal year. I guess let's start with you, Ms. Adama. How have things been for you in Dakar, and how have you been navigating 2020?
Hi, everybody, and thank you for this, and hi to all these beautiful people. I think that it's been really hard, like everywhere, and but we kind of blessed in Africa that the COVID is not that worse, and we never been in total lockdown. So we were still able to work, but since we are a small country and we depend a lot on France and all the European countries, like the commerce been really close, but we managed to be creative. We create some stuff like a show called Lockdown Show, fashion show, where we send it item and clothes to model. They film themselves at the places and they went viral. So that kind of helped us to still, pursue and have our clientele buying stuff. And, and now I'm also the founder of Dakar Fashion. We're having the show later tomorrow. And in the Forest Baobab outside of the city in a huge place. So, we have to find a way to keep our creativity going. So, basically how we manage to.
Of course, no, it's extremely necessary to, keep creative spirits high. How about you, Igor? Because of course the situation with COVID-19 in Russia has been very different to that in Senegal. How have you and other kind of independent Russian designers been navigating this year?
Hi to everyone, I'm so happy to see all of you. I've been a designer for just 1 year. I founded my brand last year, so it was really difficult to enter the market this year because the premium segment in Moscow is down. People spend less money on clothing, on apparel, and this is why they move to mass market brands or the affordable brands. Definitely the Russian ruble, the national currency, depreciated, and the purchasing parity, the purchasing power is down. We don't have fashion shows, actually, in-person fashion shows, offline. Everything is online. And Futurum, did a fashion show, but there was a small amount of people. And I had a presentation. These are small-scale presentations at a small store, and there were just a few people because mass crowds of more than like 30 or 40 people, they are banned, or maybe even 10. So a mass assembly of more than 10 people is banned. But we still try to, do some shooting. We film videos and have small-scale parochial meetings, but we definitely want to have something bigger.
Mm-hmm. And how about you, Ali? I mean, what's the situation been like in Jakarta?
Yes, thank you for asking me. Actually, our biggest challenge is for the designer, the business aspect. We are a little bit shocked when the COVID come, but on the same time, it make us stronger because we in this during the COVID, we really learning. We need to learn fast how to survive in these conditions. Through the community, we can help each other. Get faster information about positive stuff in many ways, on production side, marketing side, and there is always opportunity behind all of this, but many of us are doing okay. I mean, it's not better, but doing okay. But the positive side is we in the creativity that we try to change our DNA brand to these conditions. So it makes us stronger for the future. I think is for our brand, we can more versatile. I mean, almost all of us before we selling expensive product, but now we still selling kind of similar product, expensive, but with purpose and better quality. Mean sustainable fashions are our future in Indonesia, and we heading there. I think there's a both side. On the beginning, yes, we are having struggling on the business, but then the last couple of months or like 3 months, start from August, we kind of find our way how to adapt and adjust with the situation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the conversation of sustainability is one that I'd like to come on to in greater focus a little later on in our discussion. But it does raise a really important point that I think that this year for designers and fashion creators around the world has been a year in which, really crucial conversations have risen to the forefront around sustainability, around race equality, around, a plethora of subjects. So I'd be interested to hear, Linus, perhaps, you're based in London. What would you say are the sort of key conversations that you and other designers in your fashion community in London have been having?
Firstly, thank you for being here. It's so lovely to speak to everybody. And addressing your question, I think you actually mentioned several of these. I mean, obviously, Black Lives Matter has been such an enormous topic of discussion throughout the entire year, I think, as well as sustainability, as mentioned previously. But furthermore, I think that actually what I've been speaking a lot about with local designers, which is more fashion oriented, of course, is a newly found appreciation for a slower approach to fashion altogether, I would say. That wasn't quite there beforehand. And it's also something I'm experiencing a lot myself, way more, because it kind of feels like the world has shrunk a little bit when you're not able to travel anymore, right? And in that spirit, you're kind of forced to look around yourself and your local environment in a totally different way. So I think this has really been a topic of discussion with previous or fellow designers, both in London, but also across Europe, actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about you, Femi? How would you say the situation is in Lagos with regard to the conversations that are being had in the local fashion community?
It's been a very challenging situation here in Lagos, most especially because of the rate of COVID-19 here. There's been new cases every day. In fact, we went to a total lockdown for about 3 to 4 months. So, and apart from that, there's been other crises here, like the NSAS situation that lasted for about some weeks too. So all these are things that have affected production here and the way of our mode of operation. However, with all these challenges, we've been able to channel in some other processes to make sure that the brand is still running and everybody's still performing the duties right and to serve our clients. Before the end of the after the lockdown, we're able to participate in the Global Digital Talents. That's the show that's organized by Mrs. Fashion Week and Russian Fashion Council. So all these are things that we do to make sure that we keep our clients in loop of things that, yes, we're still around. And of course, we're a new brand. We launched last year, so we're barely 1 year old. And so we're just trying our means to make sure that the COVID-19 doesn't put us back, and yet we're putting our best foot forward.
Of course. I mean, speaking to all of you, it seems that perseverance has really been a real motif of this year. But also another thing, I guess, that's important to highlight is that as we've experienced the pandemic and kind of watched our cities change on the face of that, cities getting slower, the hustle and bustle sort of drying up. The way we interact with the cities that we live in has changed too. One, I thought it'd be interesting to hear from you on this note, given, what a vibrant and kind of bustling city Seoul typically is. I mean, how has the pandemic changed how you relate to, being a designer based in Seoul, and the way that you relate and identify with being a designer in Seoul?
Basically, before now,
sorry,
Lagos has a city.
Oh, sorry, Femi, that question was for one.
Oh, okay.
So I think like before the pandemic and after the pandemic, like everything has been really changed fast. So like most of the brand tries to go in digital in presentation ways.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think, but it has like two negative and positive way.
For the sake of the interpreters, is it possible to speak up or to speak into a microphone because we don't hear anything?
Okay. So I think the pandemic like forced to every brand to go in digital. So like every brand promoting has been really changed. So like they create like creative visuals and they try new ways to like promote their brand. So I think it's good for some reason. But actually like we can do a physical things like we'll catwalk, power show. So it's hard to like meet customer face to face. So it's like both sides, I think.
Totally. I think you raise a really interesting point there, one, that because of this digital turn in fashion, there seems to, it kind of feels like there's less of a sort of physical relationship between designers and the cities they're based in. There isn't that sort of buzz around the physical fashion weeks, which I think that, say in London, for example, it's a real sort of contributing factor to the cultural landscape. Off the back of that, though, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on, going forward, how you think designers can kind of innovate in how they interact with the cities they live in, whether that's through, collaborating with institutions or even with kind of cities' local infrastructures, or, just sort of really changing the way that designers interact and kind of communicate with the cities and the inhabitants of those cities. I mean, is there anyone who has any particular thoughts on that?
We, as Dhaka Fashion Week, we are approached the city, the mayor, and we propose to have an open show, like free for everybody in the suburbs, because I know if for the other, but in our country, the suburbs are really where creative people are from. And we decided to partnership with them and to to have the old show with the 20 designer using recycle, reuse clothes and recycling. So, and also we have this problem in this part of Africa and not the other part with, how you say that, garbage. Dishes. So we are partner with them. We collect them and we use them, and we go to the one factory that we pay to recycle them, and each of us using that form of plastic in any way possible in their collection. So that's basically what this year we decide, and we pledge to all of us. Doesn't matter if you do couture or whatever, to just reuse and recycle.
Absolutely. Ali, what are your thoughts on how young designers in Jakarta could perhaps go about, re-engaging with their local environments and sort of contributing to the urban landscape?
Yes, through the pandemic, this is one of the highlight of the designer. I think most of us learning, it's not really, this is a new world for us, with many designer, either they are senior designer or junior designer. Sustainability is new, especially during the pandemic. It seemed like the pandemic forced us to adjust very quickly. Also, how we communicate and affect things. And in the other hand, we also done so much by the technology. We don't use much technology before. How we communicate, how we done stuff. So I always think two ways. There is always positive side. We can, the designer can involve in many things. We also can convince the governments and stakeholder fashion to do important stuff, like the activity that support sustainability. We start doing that. And we, at the moment, we have a huge campaign of start loving local brand and local products, and this is also came from us, and the government believe on that, and hopefully the concept of sustainability is really work naturally. It's not because we arrange them very hard to be sustainable, but hopefully if everyone understand what it really means. So I think this is what we feel achieve something that we can convince many different stakeholders to join with the sustainable concept. Not only in our fashions, but we also believe in sustainable lifestyle. So before we do anything in fashion, we convince them to believe in the concept of how we live sustainability. In sustainable lifestyle. That's what we're pushing this time.
Of course. It certainly seems like sustainability and kind of more innovative approaches to sustainability have been kind of top of the agenda in many of your local communities. But I'd just like to kind of answer to two questions that we've received from the audience members who are currently tuned in. So the first is, what can a beginning designer do to start affecting urban culture? Linus, I think that you'd be great to speak to this one, just because obviously London has such a rich heritage of being a real hub for young designers who have, informed the city's culture. I mean, what are your thoughts on that question?
I couldn't say it better myself, quite honestly. I feel like the urban culture in London is really all about new creative initiatives from anybody, quite frankly. I mean, it's a city full of initiatives and an appreciation for initiatives as well. That's something you really notice coming from, I used to live in Antwerp, for example, and it was such a stark contrast coming to London and experiencing basically everybody you're talking to doing something of their own. So you really have this culture of starting your own initiatives. People are throwing their own shows, throwing their own gallery shows, raising pop-up shows, whatever really. They really take the, I think, encouragement that exists here and turn it into physical events, which has really completely disappeared, of course, this past year, which has been a quite interesting change. So you've kind of had to change that into digital landscape, but it's way more difficult to do with few resources. Because quite frankly, as an emerging designer or as a completely new started brand, it is relatively easy to just make your own event if you go for it. I think in London particularly, because of this appreciation, a lot of people will support you along the way, as long as you actually take the first step and ask for help from institutions, from galleries, restaurants. Any of these kind of bigger institutions are often actually willing to help and perhaps even host you for free, help with the production. And yeah, all along this style, I think it's just about taking the first step and actually reaching out for help.
Totally. It's all about that DIY spirit, isn't it? Great. And so the second question from our audience is, I have to adjust my glasses for this, it's a bit of a lengthy one, but it's, so from a beginning designer who's based in a small town, and they say, I've always admired European designers and looked up to them, but during the lockdown, I started to realize that they all create very similar things. And during this pandemic, I really started to love my own small town. So I have some fashion ideas connected to my city, but I'm not sure how to implement them. Do you maybe have any advice for me? So I guess, yeah, like how do you approach bringing your local culture into your work and kind of keeping it sort of contemporary and fresh? I think, Igor, would you like to speak to this one?
Yes, I will. Hello again, friends. And well, there is a small town outside Moscow. That is my hometown. And well, we are different from other designers because what we do is handicraft. We usually do everything manually, and well, we recycle or upcycle, as we call it in Russia, sweaters, as we heard from Adama from Senegal. And I take a lot of motives from the culture of my town. It's not a city, I'm saying town, because it's not a large city. And we will be renovating a square in this town, and I will be designing this square. And then there was a Soviet brand called Veriya. They were into producing jeans. Well, I don't produce jeans because I believe that it's not a green approach, not an ecological approach, but still, well, when I went to kindergarten, there were some motives on clothing for kids that I'm using now. And well, Moscow is ready for this upcycling, recycling, making it better. And well, we can take 2 or 3 sweaters that had people wanted to throw out, and you make an absolutely, well, completely new piece of clothing. That's great.
Yes, that sounds extremely inspiring. Thank you for that, Igor. I guess we're now winding down to the kind of final few minutes of our discussion. But I thought it would be nice to sort of broaden the conversation a little bit and just talk about, you know, what fashion means to the cities that you call home. So I think, one, it would be great to hear from you on this, because obviously Korean fashion is really sort of having a moment, so to speak, right now. I mean, how would you say fashion contributes to Seoul's sense of identity?
Oh, like they are really like to following trends. So like they always care about their outfits, like even their styles. So like they really like to buy new clothes in every season. So that's why I think like K-pop or like K-things like going, you know, globally. So like I think like people in Seoul really like to following trends, and that is the like key identity in Seoul.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Femi, how would you describe the situation in Lagos? I mean, how central is fashion and dressing to, you know, Lagos citizens?
Fashion is something that Lagosians love. it has contributed a lot to every part of Lagos, because every time there's a fashion show or any fashion event, there's always a lot of things that are employed to make sure that such events hold, from models to local artisans that will make what the designers will make, from vendors that provide stuff for the event. So fashion is one of the major contributors to Lagos economy, because Lagosians love fashion. We love to come out looking flamboyant, looking gorgeous. Every Saturday, there's always an event in Lagos where people would love to wear lovely apparels. And fashion is just the only way Lagosians express themselves, mostly.
And so to kind of flip that question, I mean, how directly would you say your cities and the kind of culture of the places you call home inform your work? I mean, Adama, from what you were saying, it sounds like, local materials and sort of, local aspects are really sort of crucial to the work that you do.
Yeah, actually, as a Dakaroise, and we are like an island. We are like surrounded with water, and we have, honestly, our main issue is the garbage, and plastic. And I'm so proud and I'm so honored to lead this young designer, and that Dakar Fashion Week is leading to we all pledge to do our best to integrate in our collection, whether we are accessories and our gown, to just recycle plastic in a way or another. And it's been crazy, because I saw designer doing things that we never thought that we can make with plastic. And I love the outcome, and I love that by doing something good for our environment, we're doing great creative things like jewelry, chair. We start, as clothes designers, some of them start designing furniture. It's just crazy, because, and I love that aspect of our, that the COVID kind of gave us the strength and also the passion, not only for fashion, but the passion for our city and our environment.
Amazing. And I think we're now kind of wrapping up. So we've got just about a minute left. Time flies when you're having fun. But Ali, if you could perhaps offer a closing remark on your thoughts on where you hope to see Jakarta's and also the global fashion community, or the direction you hope to see Jakarta's and the global fashion communities taking. Where would you like to see, your fashion community going over the next years?
Yep. Look, Indonesia, or especially Indonesia or Jakarta, we actually, if you don't know Indonesia, we have a lot of island. We have we can say 1,000 island in language and culture. So we are rich of inspiration. And 90% of our country is Muslim. So the Muslim wear or modest wear are huge market here, which is, but most of the market is taken by international brand. Actually, our local brand got small leftover of the market themselves. So we have a huge homework here as a designer. So we will love to collaborate with international brand for the future. And but we also want to have a share on the market, because fashion is not our culture. Fashion is new to us. It's from Europe, but we have a batik, as the big brand using Dior just use batik, and local weaving from Indonesia last season. And this means we have very good quality material, and we have a lot of different kind of material. I think a lot of African also using batik techniques, which is came from us, and we also collaborating with the lot of African company to do this. So I believe Indonesia will have our own fashion and hopefully can blend with the European culture as well. So that's what I hope the Indonesian fashion grow.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I wish that we could stay and discuss many of the pertinent topics that you just raised, but unfortunately, we've come to time. A big thank you to you all for tuning in, wherever you're joining us from. And a special thank you to our wonderful panelists. Thank you so much for your contributions to today's discussion. And have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye.
Colleagues, thank you so much for being a part of our event.